All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started today for this week's midweek stretch break. Of course, make sure you have your water. We're going to start off here with the chest stretch. This is where we need a tension piece of equipment. All we're going to be doing here is just wrapping those arms back and holding there, allowing our arms to stretch back. Whether or not you have a towel or a blanket or even a broom, which doesn't give too much give in it, would still be a great time to do this stretch. And again, this is on your own time here because we're all going to have different pieces of equipment. So I want you guys to hold this stretch as long as you feel comfortable. If you ever need a break, go ahead, let those arms come back forward, maybe roll out the shoulders a little bit, and then re-engage as you're ready. But right now, you guys are on your own time here, just enjoying the stretch. Again, this is just how we're starting off class. After that, we're just going to put this piece of equipment off to the side so nobody else is going to miss out on anything else if you weren't able to gather something like this for class. All right, guys, right there, you can go ahead, put that piece of equipment off to the side. Full body, the rest of the time, full body stretches. What we're going to do here is you're just going to hinge at the hips here, guys, and then you can let that spine unravel, completely relax towards the floor. If you want to touch the floor, you can. Otherwise, feel free to just cross your arms. Again, just allowing your spine to open up, hamstrings to get a nice little stretch in here as well. And you're holding this one, again, as long as you feel comfortable. When you do feel time to come up, what I'm going to have you do is put your hands on your shin and then trace your hands up towards your knee by first extending the spine to a straight, nice back, and then hinge up like we'll do in our strength or our cardio classes. Again, it's just like a hinge. We want to make sure that spine's in a nice protected state before we hinge back up. Otherwise, you are free to hang out down here for a little bit as you want to. All right, from there, guys, I'm going to have you put your hands on your shins, trace it up to your knee as you extend at the spine, nice straight back, hinge forward there. We're going to take this on down to the ground here. V stretch, spreading those legs, stretching right down towards the center here, focusing on our adductors, those interior thigh muscles. Again, never too important where your hands rest here, so long as your body is inducing a stretch. If you feel more comfortable that you need to stretch out, otherwise, if you feel that your body is able to come forward and you can just let your hands fall, that's super ideal. So we're taking the challenge out of this so much and are able to more focus on just the stretch and allowing our body to relax. That's the huge ideal here, guys. And to complement that, we're going to go into a butterfly stretch. Again, focusing on those adductors a little bit, just in a different modality here. From there, I'm going to have you guys go back to that V stretch. Now that we've had a little bit of time, I want you guys to see if you can start a little bit farther than where you ended the last time we did this. Don't feel like you have to. It's not a huge challenge, but it does help us to see a little bit of improvement. However, the important thing to note is that those any increases in flexibility that we get today, we have to leave today trying to improve those, incorporate those into our daily life with those improved range of motions. If we get more flexible while stretching, but our body does not adjust to it in our activities of daily living, our body's not going to adapt to staying at that length with those muscles. It's going to revert back, and we're not really going to see any improvements. So while it's important to be conscious about trying to improve range of motion right now, it's also important to remember to be conscious to incorporate, transition that range of motion from here outside of here. Go ahead, raise up a little bit. Now that we've opened up the hips with those hamstrings and those adductors, I want us to come up on one knee, guys. We're going to do a hip flexor stretch here. Just a basic lunge position with that knee at about a 90-degree angle here. Neutral pelvis, torso upright to start. And then as we begin, you guys can lean forwards. That's going to change the angle of this knee. Hopefully stretching this area right here, that hip flexor on this back leg. If you need a little bit more of a stretch from there, guys, a few options that you can look into doing. You can rotate into this top knee. Some of our hip flexors are spinal rotators, so this does help a little bit. If you need anything else, try leaning this way if you're stretching this hip flexor. That should work for a lot of us, one of those two options. If we need something beyond that, I would recommend being very, very cautious and just careful with this one, but you can lean back ever so slightly, basically telling this pelvis to tilt backwards. And what that does is it just elongates that muscle there. And why we want to be careful with that is because we have hip flexors that cross over that pelvic bone right there, and we don't want to allow too much cross friction there, So I would recommend staying in this neutral position for a little bit, and then try rotating, and then try leaning if we need to do a little bit more, and give a good amount of time in each of those positions before you try necessarily going back. That should really be for advanced people and maybe unnecessary based on needed range of motion in today's life. But it is an option. From there, guys, I'm going to have you switch over. Do the same thing with that other leg. Start neutral. Give that about 10 seconds. If you need anything from there, You can try rotating first. You can try leaning first. Give those about 15 seconds before you try the next one. Giving them a good amount of time before we try messing with that pelvic area too much. And go ahead, switch back to that first leg. Go ahead, try to start in a similar position where you were in the last rep. So if you've been progressed to this rotation, try starting in this rotation, maybe not as intense as you ended with as much of a twist, but try to start near that last spot and progress from there if you're able. And from there, rotating back to that other leg, same thing. And then from there, guys, we're going to take it down to the ground here. I'm going to focus on our glutes a little bit, specifically our piriformis muscle. It's a smaller gluteal muscle that hangs off right the hip bone, and it can get tight if we spend a lot of time sitting in a chair. So what we're doing is we're putting one ankle on the opposite knee, and then we're pulling in that bottom knee to get a stretch right on the side there. While we're in this position, guys, feel free to rotate that ankle. Both counterclockwise and clockwise. And go ahead, relax that position, switching over to the other side, doing the same thing here. And from there, guys, go ahead, sit up however we might find this comfortable. Maybe we have a chair right around, or we're fine just here on the floor. We're going to finish off, of course, with our 4-way neck stretch. Hands, shoulders relaxed, however that may be for you guys. But we're going to start off dipping that chin into our chest to stretch the back of our necks. And from there, go ahead, raise it up, tilting our heads back, chins up towards the sky, stretching the front of our necks. and back down to center, one ear to the opposite shoulder. And raise it up, other shoulder.